Climate change a distraction. This week, a church close to the COP26 climate change conference displayed a banner. The world's most urgent need is churches preaching Christ crucified, not climate change. That's quite provocative. Within 48 hours, the banner was torn down and a Twitter storm blew up. Of course, sharing the good news that Jesus was crucified to take on himself all the sin and wrong of the world, that's personal sin and the community sin of failing to care for the planet God gave us, is a good message, but it's not distinct from climate change. We believe in the beginning that God created the world and created it good. Humanity made in God's image is described by God as very good. He was really pleased with his creation work. The next event is the story of humanity deciding that we want to be the rulers. We want to be like God, not just in his image. And so sin enters in, sin being everything that is not in accordance with God's will and purpose. For God, the creator of the universe and everything in it, this created world is just as important as the men and women he created in his image. It's so important to him that at the end of the Bible story, Revelation chapter 21, God renews heaven and earth, and the city of God comes down to earth with God dwelling among his people. God renews earth and heaven, and once again, God walks in the garden with us, as in Genesis chapter 3, verse 8. And the hinge between creation and recreation is Jesus' death on the cross, where he took on himself all the sin and wrong of the world. St. Paul writes of this great reconciling in his letter to the Colossians chapter 1 verse 15. The Son is the image of the invisible God, the firstborn over all creation. For in him all things were created, things in heaven and on earth, visible and invisible. All things have been created through him and for him. In him all things hold together. Through him God reconciles to himself all things, whether things on earth or things in heaven, by making peace through his blood shed on the cross. The banner should have read, the most urgent need is churches preaching Christ crucified and climate change. Christ crucified is the reason that we do care about climate change, because through his reconciling death, he is reconciling and restoring both humanity and earth and heaven. To preach Christ crucified is to care about what God cares about, men and women reconciled to him, and earth and heaven restored. As Christians, we care about climate change if we truly rejoice in the gift of Christ crucified.